So I'm making this video to answer the question that I get when I'm out and about in public, or people who know me and they see Rosie, and that question is, why do you have her? Or what's she for? And whenever you get asked that in person, it can be sometimes quite awkward, and you're like, so I thought I'd make this video, but I first of all wanted to start off by saying this video isn't made to be like, oh, that's sad, or oh, that's unfortunate, because I don't think of it that way. I think it is the opposite, and it's just part of me, it's just part of me. The reason I say that is because I have had people come up to me about, oh my gosh, that's so sad, and I'm like, no, it's not sad. I'm not sad. So yeah, I'd also like to start off by saying a bit about Rosie. So this is Rosie. She was trained by Therapy Dogs New Zealand. So we contacted them and they interview you and try and look for a match, and then Rosie graduates, and then I get her, and then after a bit of time, then we get to graduate together. And so she is trained from a school, and she had to graduate. She had no easy task. She had high expectations. She was the only girl too out of her group, so she was an independent little woman. Yeah, and so my diagnoses or the reasons I have Rosie have a few specific terms, and the reason I guess you could say I have those is because I was born very, very early. I was born 27 weeks into my mum's pregnancy, which is pretty early, and I weighed 515 grams when I was born, and I got down to 315 grams, which is a block of butter. That was how much I weighed, and I could fit in a fully grown hand. Not my hand, not a big enough hand, but if you get a pen, like a big pen, that was the size of the length of my body, and you could see through me. That sounds gross, but you could. So yeah, that was, things didn't, when you're in an incubator, because I had to be in hospital for months, when you're in an incubator, while it's a great thing to have an incubator, which is something that kind of acts like you're supposed to be, it still isn't, and things don't get the chance to develop like they would normally. So yeah, that's pretty much why. So the thing I'd like to start off with is my main diagnosis, which I've always had these things throughout my whole life. We've always known, but a year ago is when they very much started to flare up. Like, they went from here to like here very, very quickly. And I'm not going to go into too much detail about that because I want to keep some parts private, and that was definitely the worst state I was in. I was doing a lot of very crazy things, and I didn't have much control over myself or what I was doing. So yeah, that's where from that point is where I got these diagnoses done. And yeah, so the first one, and my primary one, is obsessive compulsive disorder, commonly called OCD, which is something that I think a lot of people misunderstand. A lot of people think that that's having to have things in a straight line, or having to stand at a light switch and flick it on and off. And while it can be like that for some people, definitely, for me it's not. For me, oh, big yawns, Rosie. For me, I have it around smells, which I'll explain a bit later in one of my other conditions. But for me, if I smell something, I believe that it will harm me, so I have to do certain compulsions. So they can be like washing my hands a lot, or showering a lot, or avoiding stuff a lot. And there's a lot of other things, but I don't want to get too personal. And that can be very stressful. So it's just, I get like this very overwhelmed feeling of I have to do this to get rid of this. Like, it is on me. Like, that's what my brain tells me. And a kind of subcategory for me to my OCD is a condition called bromidrophobia, which is a big word. But what it means is it's the fear or phobia of smells, pretty much. It could go into deeper stuff than that, but that's pretty much what it is. So an example of that would be fire. So for me, I might smell smoke, and that's very distressing for me. So I believe it's on me and it will contaminate me, and it's not good. So that often involves if somebody, so we're driving in the car, someone lights a fire, I smell it and I panic. And now I've got Rosie, she helps me, but I often have to, still with her, stay in the car if there is those smells, just because it's too distressing for me. And it's not just that smell specifically, it's meat. Like, we have to cook meat, certain meats outside of the house, because they are still too distressing for me. And I could go on and on for a long time, but bromidrophobia is the feral phobia of, I think the main thing is bodily smells or fluids, but for me it goes off into a lot of directions, just the fear of smells. So those two kind of go in with each other, they feed off each other. So my OCD knows that I'm afraid of these smells. So what it will do, and this is this part is somewhat new, we're still trying to understand it, it's quite complicated, but I'll try and give an example to make it more sense. But I smell things most people don't. So, example is, there was a fire somewhere when we were driving a while ago, and that was stressful, as well as other things that become stressful to me in my day-to-day life, and it accumulates. So what my brain likes to do is it likes to, just out of the blue, randomly, I can wake up in the morning, and this could happen, and in the scenario I'm going to give, it was the middle of the night, so I'll give that scenario to make it make more sense, is that so that happened, I thought I was fine, I was like, okay, a bit stressed, I can feel my body's tense, like, not unusual, And I woke up, went to bed that night, not really any different. And I woke up at 2 a.m. thinking I could smell a particular smell. For me, when I do have these episodes of this happening, it's a specific smell. Sometimes it can start with, say, some smells, a smell, like, for example, in this case, I can't remember what it was, but it starts with a specific smell and then goes to this smell that I know that no one else can smell. So no one else could smell both of those smells in this case. So it woke me up. It woke me up because of this smell. And the smell, I remember it was cat feces, because we have a cat and our cat's old, and for some reason that was just the chosen smell. So I could smell this, as in I could literally smell it, like I could smell it. So I went looking for it. I turned every light on in my house looking for the smell, and it wasn't there. And then obviously eventually my parents woke up and they looked around too, and they're like, it's not there. And then it evolved. So very distressing, obviously, having a smell that you can smell and that's very real to you, that no one else can smell. So Mum looked, and I tried some of my strategies. I got Rosie to do deep pressure therapy, which helped, but unfortunately wasn't enough, and I had to take a specific set of emergency medication to help me get back to sleep, because for me it was very real, and it also is very frustrating when others can't smell these smells. So that's what happens when I say how they feed off one another. They can cause that to happen sometimes, as well as daily things that they make really hard for me. But I'm so lucky to have Rosie, who helps me with those things, which I'm really grateful for. I also, in kind of conjunction with that, is I have sensory processing difficulties. So those, I have a heightened sense of smell as well as other senses. So like I don't like being touched, for example, or I have a specific one in my auditory, so my hearing, where I hear stuff, like I hear it, but it takes a while to go through to where it's supposed to in my brain and me actually understand it. So you could be having a conversation with me and I'm like, oh, yep. And I'll take just a little bit longer to process that information, or stuff like that, if that makes sense. So yeah, those are the main ones that affect me, and the main ones I wanted to talk about, because they're the reasons I'm lucky enough to have Rosie, but without going into super specific details, they can be very distressing and very disabling for me, because I can't do things. Like for example, if there was smoke outside, I could not leave my house, which is very hard. But there's also a lot of good things. I've met so many amazing people. I've got my precious little angel here. I've learned a lot about myself and about the important things in life, I guess you could say. Like before all of this flare up that happened a year ago, I knew I had these struggles, but I cared about things that now to me after this, I'm like, there's more important things, I guess you could say, than those things. Like I don't know, it just gives you a wider understanding, I guess, of life. So there's a lot of good things that have come from it. And that's just why I wanted to make this video, to explain, because it is the most commonly asked question. And in that moment, it can be sometimes very hard to explain. So I thought I'll make this video so that everybody can kind of get an understanding, because sometimes I will just say I have OCD, or I try to give a simple answer. So I thought I would like to make this video to help. I hope it was helpful. I hope it was informative. And I hope that if you are having some of these struggles or different struggles, that you know that there's good things that come out of it. Like, even though it might suck some days, or it might be really, really hard, and you have all of these amazing strategies or rosies, and you still can't do some things, that's okay, and that to keep trucking along and working every day to help yourself get better, because that's what I do. Every day I go and I have to work at it, and that it gets easier. Might not, in my case, it's not ever going to be a walk in the park, but it gets easier, and we have blessings come into our life, like people and my Rosie, who make it more bearable and that help us. So yeah, that's this video. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry if I rambled on a bit, but yeah, okay. Thank